So today we're looking at the innovis 15 and we're just going to go through the basic setup and how to get started. So first things first, we're just going to go through the stitch settings. So it's a mechanical selection where you just turn the wheel and the mechanical selections connected to the onboard computer, which gives the stitch length and the stitch width of each stitch. So if we select 4, so this is a zigzag stitch, it has a stitch length of 1.4 and a stitch width of 3.5, and we are able to change that and select a stitch length and width which is applicable to the sewing that we want to do. When we go off 4 and we come back to it, it will preset back to the default settings, and that's standard on most machines. So we're going to turn this back to 2. 2 is a straight stitch, and you can see there's no stitch width there. That's because the needle is locked in the middle of the stitch, and if we wanted to reposition the needle, then we would go to stitch 1, and that now gives us a stitch width of 0, which means that the needle is on the far left, and we can position the needle anywhere far left to far right, again to suit our needs. So if we set that on 1.5 and we go to 2 and back to 1, it again defaults back to its normal settings. In addition to that, we've got a speed limiter. Now this can be used either with the stop start button or with the foot control, and the speed limiter will override the speed on the foot control. So however this is set, that's the speed the machine's going to go. We've got the needle up down control, which helps us position the needle, and the reverse button. On the top there we've got the tension, which generally is always left between 3 and 4. The machine also has the needle threader, which we'll go through in a bit more detail shortly. And other than that, it's quite a straightforward machine to use. So we're going to try and get the camera so that we can show you the threading. So first things first is to wind the bobbin. So we're going to put the reel on, and we've got a spool cap which is just a bit smaller than the reel, and that's important so that to make sure that the thread doesn't catch on the spool cap, which it can do if it's the other way around. If the spool cap is much bigger than the reel, potentially you can get a snag there, and that will cause problems. So we're going to put that on, push that all the way up to make sure that no thread can get between the two there, and the thread will pull off nice and evenly there. So we turn you around a bit. So in terms of winding the bobbin, we go into the guide there and around the guide there, and this is the tricky bit. So take it in, so the thread goes around this piece and then underneath that, and it's important to pull it through so the thread disappears underneath the spring there, to make sure you've got tension on here, and that will give you a nice even wind on the bobbin. Now there's a couple of ways of doing that. Fixing the bobbin, this is my preferred way, works every time without any hitch. So the thread is from the inside to the outside of the bobbin. Bobbin goes on the bobbin winder, and we push it over, and then all we do is hold the thread up in the air while we're winding the bobbin. So we're going to set the speed about 3/4 and use the stop start button, this one here, to wind the bobbin. So we're just holding this thread up in the air. And then what you can do is hold the thread really tight at the top and it will just snap off. Once we've got enough thread on the bobbin there, we'll stop the winder and just lift it off. And you can see we've got a nice evenly wound bobbin there. So I'm going to turn back round, a little bit closer. So the thread now comes off here and it comes from the back straight down, around and back up. Back up on the right hand side, all the way to the back, lean it across, pull it towards us, and we're making sure we're pulling this thread towards us and it comes out horizontally. That makes sure the thread is in the take-up, the eye of the take-up lever, which is really, really important. So we're going to cut this thread off now. And we can, at this point, reload the bobbin. So hold the bobbin so it's like a P with the thread on the left hand side. We're going to drop it in there. We're going to hold the bobbin down with our finger and get the thread underneath the guide there and go round. So we're putting a little bit of tension on this bobbin, on the thread, to make sure that the thread locates properly. Go round, around, and then we cut off. The bobbin cover can then go on. And that's finished with. It's not like the older machines where you would need to pull the bobbin thread up. This is a quick start needle plate, so that's it, finished, ready to sew. So we're going to try and now show the threading of the needle. So what we're going to do is just tip the machine back a little bit. Hopefully that will catch it. So the needle threader is terribly, terribly delicate and great care is needed with it. First and foremost is to make sure that the needle isn't bent. How do you do that? Well, if there's any suspect that it might be bent, don't try and check it. Change it with a brand new needle, making sure it's flat to the back and all the way up. You can actually just see the top of the needle there before you tighten the clamp to make sure it's in that uppermost position. And the position of the needle up and down is also really important. And the best way to do it is to press the needle up down control, and that will set the needle in the correct position, ready for the needle threader. So we come down past 5 and we go into the clamp at 6. This is where it gets a bit tricky to show. But we're going to pull the needle threader down. It's important to just come down with it, not pull it left or push it right. That will aggravate the threading. Pull it down, and as we push it, the needle threader spins round to the needle. So we've got our finger on the needle threader button here. That allows us to catch that with our thumb and hold it on the clip there. And then we go in between the prongs all the way to the back and up. And then as we're letting this lever go, we let the thread go on the right hand side, and that allows the thread to pull through the eye of the needle. Like so. Then we feed the thread through the foot and out of the back of the machine, and then the machine is now ready to start sewing.